Germans opt to be strangers to their past and their grief. Germany's victims in Gaza have no moment to grieve, and Germans are blocking their own grief about the Nazi past. Yesterday I was invited to a Passover dinner Seder in Berlin with others, secular and non-secular. I made new friends, and we talked about how cruelty becomes possible through not knowing oneself. Germany's past is not past. We separate our past from ourselves. Grieving what our grandparents did to others and in turn themselves becomes impossible when we close ourselves off. We Germans often try to find ourselves, yet we largely deny another genocide despite our memory culture. Making everything about us reveals our need for therapy. We need a genocide therapist in the sense that our genocide denialism reveals our need for therapy. I talked to a guest who was violently arrested by police in Berlin for verbally trying to calm the police down. The Seder was the first time since the incident that the person felt a little bit safe and calm. One guest told me how some Germans become racist as soon as it seems legitimate once again to the ruling discourse. One guest told me some Germans grew up intuiting that the word Jew is a taboo word and therefore never come to have an everyday relationship to today's Jewish life. Another guest told me that in order not to get arrested while filming German police criminalizing Palestinians, the more expensive my journalistic equipment looks, the better my chances of not being harmed by police. I talked to a couple who, despite the general repression, are managing to raise funds for cultural projects of Gaza-related voices. We agreed that we feel like a fake as a result of German societal upbringing. We compensate by trying to make things possible for others. Making things possible for others sometimes becomes seen by some who enable more of this work, yet feeling like a fake doesn't go away. We don't have to be afraid of the collective and of unity and collective grief. We don't have to be afraid of how the past is not past. We don't have to make ourselves strangers to the past, needing the past to be resolved. We don't need to bargain for forgiveness. We endure the unity of collective grief about our perpetrator legacy and unworked through guilt by creating a living collective instead of a dead replacement nationalism of state doctrine and of German ultra-Zionism. In this sense, I recognize my socialized Germanness in being made to feel afraid. In this maybe very wide socialization, grumpy reactions lurk all around as soon as people are not absolutely conform. German grumpiness is functioning to instill fear and targets us in our childhoods lastingly. Conformity creates false idols, where we are not allowed to become who we are and to emancipate from having to be something for an imagined other. Passover is about emancipation from slavery, just as today we seek emancipation from our false idols. Naomi Klein speaks about how people worship the idol of Zionism in order to escape themselves. Maybe the escape is of a different kind for Germans, but what we escape from is not always different. Perpetrator legacies and victim legacies can be in a strange trauma bond in what they escape from. In some cases, both escape their grief and vulnerability through ultra-Zionism. At the end of the Seder, each of us read a line from Naomi Klein's own Seder. Below are excerpts of her Seder. It is a false idol, she says, that takes our most profound biblical stories of justice and emancipation from slavery, the story of Passover itself, and turns them into a brutalist weapons of colonial land theft roadmaps, of ethnic cleansing and genocide. It is a false idol that has taken the transcendent idea of the promised land, a metaphor for human liberation that has traveled across multiple faiths to every corner of this globe and dared to turn it into a deed of sale for a militaristic ethno-state. Denialism has brought us to our present moment of cataclysm, and it is time that we said clearly it has always been leading us here. Our Judaism cannot be contained, she says, by an ethno-state, for our Judaism is internationalist by nature. Our Judaism, she says, is not threatened by people raising their voices in solidarity with Palestine across lines of race, ethnicity, physical ability, gender identity, and generations. Our Judaism is the Judaism of the Passover, Seder, the gathering and ceremony to share food and wine with loved ones and strangers alike. She says, we don't need or want the false idol of Zionism. We want freedom from the project that commits genocide in our name, she says. What are we? We in these streets for months and months are the exodus from Zionism, Naomi Klein says.